Hi, welcome to another episode of Monday Mindset Moment. This is Vanessa Callahan, founder and lead coach. I was just outside enjoying some fresh air in our foggy summer weather here in the Bay. Fostering a very little dog who likes to hang out in this room, so I figure we'll move it here today. So what is the deal with getting kids off screens? Well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge it isn't easy. And if you've ever struggled with your child in terms of getting them off of a screen, just know that you're not alone. Just put the maybe like yes in the comments or the chat. Yes, you've ever had a moment where it's difficult to get the kids off the screens and engaging in real life. Please just put a yes so that we all know that we're not in this alone. Unfortunately, we often see our kids at their worst when it comes to screen time. So we want to come up with some healthy boundaries to maybe limit their time with devices and help move them towards meaningful, maybe active screen time where they're learning something or at least interacting. I think the thing that we all are probably least wanting to create are kids who can sort of zombie out and just passively consume a lot of content and then are in a grumpy mood because they haven't gone to the bathroom or eaten or drank water, and they're really sensitive to being separated from this sort of portal into a highly audio visual experience where they get to really imagine and be in another space, but they're not really necessarily present with their needs and their body and with the people around them. I hear all the time that one of the top things that sets kids off when it comes to meltdowns and tantrums and getting into power struggles are when it's time to turn the screens off. So that's why we're focusing on this today. And we just have to acknowledge that screens are here to stay. I mean, how many of you spend at least an hour on your smartphones every day and the kids get to see you do that? Yeah. How many of you, take in a show or play a game or something on another device like a computer, tablet, on the TV? Absolutely. Even the billboards we drive by on the freeway are often, actually screens. So we know that this time on screens does alter brain activity and can change the way that we think and process information and even influence how we feel. There have been studies where if you watch something sad and then you are given sad news, the people will rate their level of sadness higher if they were primed by a sad video before they got the sad news. And so our mood can be influenced either, in a more positive direction or in a more negative direction, depending on the content. And also it influences, us by just the content itself. So there's such a variety out there. So finding that sweet spot where we want them to have access to this content and be able to have really great media consumption hygiene practices, which is a whole topic of its own that I love helping parents with. But just this moment of getting them to separate from screens. So hopefully to create the sweet spot where there's this balance between screen time and time engaging in real life. How many of you would like to see your kids more engaged in real life or have more resilience about separating from screens and getting back into activities they enjoy off screens? Put me in the chat or comments if that's you, that you'd really like to have more of that balance and have the kids have more resilience, separating from screens. Yeah, just put me in the chat and comments so we can see. Even on the replay, even on the YouTube video, just put me in the comments and it'll give us a sense that you're listening, you're with us, and that you're aligning with this goal. Because when you align with the goal of what you want as a parent creator, creating the family life you want, it's a lot easier for you to then take action. If there's any misalignment or fear or concern, it's just more challenging. So it's good to claim these things. Yes, I would like my child to be more resilient when they separate from a screen. Yes, I'd like for there to be more balance between activities in real life and screen time. Yes, good. Because what I've seen from working with hundreds of families over the past 20 years is that every stage of development needs something different when it comes to getting off screens. But there are some motivation strategies that work better than others for all ages, including, you guessed it, the adults. So here's what I want to walk you through, okay? I want to walk you through that moment where it is time to put the screen down, time to turn off the device, time to move on to maybe like a transition to leave the house or a transition to bedtime, or you just want that balance in that period of time where there is free time, maybe on the weekends in the summer. That's we're all rolling into right now. And you want them to get more engaged in activities that are off of screens. So we've got a couple of pieces here to play with. You ready? Put ready in the chat or comments if you're ready for this next part. Ready to make a little mini plan for how you're going to improve the motivate so that your kids are more self-motivated around this piece where you're not going to have to be the one coming in and creating a big stink about it, threatening rewards or offering rewards and bribing or threatening consequences, those kinds of things, right? You'd like it to just happen smoothly, like this is how we do this and we all understand why it's happening and we do our part in making it happen, that to make it as painless and effortless as possible. Yeah, put ready in the chat if you're ready for that piece. Okay, good. I see a couple people commenting here on Facebook, I believe. Let me do for that piece. Okay, good. Oh, yes. Okay. Desiree here saying me and ready. Nice, Desiree. So here's what I want you to think about. Do you have in place a mini routine that is repeatable for how you transition from screen time to other things? Think about it. Now, whether or not you've called it a mini routine or whether you've identified it as a routine, you definitely probably have a pattern for how this typically goes. So let's look at that first. How does it typically go? You give a reminder and they ignore it. You give a reminder, they ignore it. You give a reminder, they ignore it. And then finally you yell and then they finally listen. And then maybe you bargain about how much more time they're going to have. And then sometimes you give in, sometimes you don't, or like you always stick with it. I don't know what it is, right? But everybody in every family has some kind of way that they tend to handle this. And it tends to be a pattern, like things that you do most often, right? So just take a moment and think about what that is for you. How does that typically go? What does it look like? And there's some pieces there that we can tweak that can help to shift it to a mini routine of separating what's from screens that you actually like and enjoy, and your kids can kind of, be in charge of more and more. Okay. So now that you've got a picture in your mind of how it usually goes, let's talk about what we can move toward to improve it. Okay. So first of all, one of the things that we sometimes forget is how much children's limited life experience is in play here, and how much being in an audiovisual, like, the studio effects now in games and everything, it's all designed to feel more and more like real life or more and more enticing to stay longer. And so we actually need a mechanism to separate kids from those things that are grabbing them, like the automatic play the next episode, the cliffhanger at the end of the episode, if you don't get to this point, then you can't save the game. If you play for, if you keep coming back, then you'll be able to harvest your vegetables or coins more in a game. Like there's all these mechanisms in there built in to keep you on the screen longer. And these are really helpful for industries, for businesses, because the longer that you're on the screen, the more they can, advertise to you either within their own platform or bring in outside advertisement, right? And that's how they pay for things like free games, or, it's just kind of how it's built. So the first thing you can do is acknowledge that that's there, especially for kids who are 6 and older. Oh, this is the part where the game tries to get you to keep playing. We know this, we know how it works, right? So that's part of the media hygiene. So basically pulling the curtain back on how these games and or shows and or YouTube video like the platforms and things are designed. So I didn't mean to single out YouTube, just any platform is designed to keep you on a screen. Acknowledge that, talk about it, be transparent about it, and then get curious together about how to crack the code for, beating that system. Okay, so if the game is trying to get you to stay in it, but it's time to do something else, what can we do? And get curious, get interested with your kid. Now, when the kid is younger, you might be doing this with yourself or with your co-parent, thinking like, well, how can we break the spell, basically, right? So a couple things you can do in your mini routine is you can plan in reminder, and then routine of how the screen gets turned off and put away. And you pattern it so much that it's like, how like you pattern kids on how to brush their teeth, like, oh, like I will always brush the left side of my mouth first because that's how I was taught. Start there and then go to the bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, and then insides. I don't even think about it, right? It's a routine that I just do. And what I know from being a motivation researcher, focusing on that in my master's, working with my colleague, Dr. Luce, who's also a motivation researcher, did her dissertation on it. We have come together to really talk about these topics and coach people on them and really explore like what works. If you are aware of things that are trying to motivate you in this direction, then you can actively go, nope, and steer in this direction. But if you don't routinize it and make it routine and build a habit around it, awareness isn't enough. I'm going to say it again. Awareness is not enough. You need habits to back up your awareness. And so that's why we do things like create sessions where we talk all about motivation boosting habits. Like we have one coming up this Thursday. I'll share a link to register. It's free. Dr. Luce and I are doing. So that you can create a routine that works, becomes a habit. 3 things that make a habit really strong. I'll give you some tips right now, quick and dirty. And then I really want you to come to the Thursday session if this is something you want to conquer. Like if you want self-motivation, you want a routine that runs itself, you want it to be a habit, not something you're having to constantly bring awareness to and constantly remind yourself. Like imagine if every time you brush your teeth, you had to go, okay, top teeth first and then bottom teeth. Like that would just be such a waste of time and energy. And that might be how you're feeling about separating from screens, right? Your kids from screens. So they don't have to stay there. This can change. Why don't I go ahead and drop the link so you all can sign up? So here are my 3 tips though, okay? We're going to go through the I Care model, which is, by the way, something I teach to all my clients. And this works for all ages. Desiree says she wants tips for teens. I mean, all ages, even adults. Okay. I use this model all the time because it's just how motivation works. It's not motivation just for kids. Okay. For little ones. Interest, competence, and autonomy are 3 of the mechanisms of motivation that really move things forward so that you can build habits. If you make it interesting, if you address any competence issues, which mean not competition, competence, like you have the skills, you practice, you understand, you're aware of how to do the steps, right? And then autonomy, where you have a sense of choice and agency, where you're not doing it because someone told you to, but you're doing it because you're choosing to, okay? So already by exploring this media hygiene part, we've already built in three things there. We've built in the interest, the competence, and autonomy. Here's why. It's interesting to try and beat a system. It's interesting. Getting curious. Power of curiosity is what unlocks this motivation hack. Interest, getting curious, like what can we build into our mini routine that will allow us to separate from this screen time and feel good about it and feel like proud of ourselves. And what is something else that's really interesting you could do right after? So the easy quick tip here is get curious about how to beat the system of this algorithm. And that's especially for the teens and tweens, right? And kids over 6. When they're little, it's like, how can we say, no more screen time, like we're done with you. We turn you off, right? Like getting into that kind of space of, I'm in charge here, not the screen, is really fun with little ones. And then the other thing you can do with interest is already plan ahead what activity you're going to do right after screen time is over that is of high interest. Set up that art project, then go do the iPad. Pick the book you're going to read for bedtime, then go do the iPad, right? Or then go watch the little show on the TV. Have it lined up so that there's a high interest activity to follow. Build that into your routine and it will help smooth out this transition, okay? Especially for little kids, but even for teens and tweens too. Like if they have a in real life hang out with a friend, guess what they're going to do? They're going to be like getting off their phone when someone knocks at the door or when it's time to drive to the activity, right? So getting them to have something that's in real life and social is especially helpful, Desiree, for teens, okay? And if they're not doing that for themselves, do it with like family friends. Just make a plan with a family friend who has another teen that your child is friendly with or whatever it takes, okay? They need that. It's too easy for them to just click tap their screens and they think that they have a social life, but they really don't have a robust social life without in-person time, okay? So hot tip for you, Desiree, since you showed up live. Good work getting here Monday at noon. Competence-wise, breaking it down into steps and actually talking through what this mini routine is going to be is competence. Understanding how the game works of keeping you on screens is part of building competence. And then exploring what works and breaking down to smaller steps. So things like, what's the best way for me to remind you that there's 10 minutes left, or for you to remind yourself, right? Setting a timer, right? Setting an alarm on your phone if you're a kid who has a smartphone, right? A teen or tween. And then for the very little ones, breaking it down into steps where you might even use hand signals like I go 10, and in order to show that they heard me, they either say 10 or go 10, and then you go, okay, 5 minutes, okay, 5 minutes, and then 1 minute, 1 minute, and then it's like, woo, what do? We hit the off button, and you can practice it and have you can do a little timeout for training and have their little stuffy do the routine so they can see it and learn it. It's a thing they're learning, just like brushing teeth sequence, okay? And then last but not least, autonomy. Along the way, giving choices. Would you like to turn it off, or would you like me to turn it off? Would you like me to use the hand signal, or do you want me to just use words? For teens, tweens, and the older kids, you might say, well, you can watch 30 minutes of passive content and 30 minutes of active content. Which one do you want to do first? And giving them a choice of when or how it happens, but not whether or not it happens, right? The choices we don't want to give, last hot tip is, do you want to turn your screen off now? Said every parent who then immediately lost the battle, right? Like that's not the right kind of power to give the kid. You can say, but you can refer back to it and say, hey, remember we agreed 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes is up. Are you choosing to turn off your screen yourself? Or do you need me to do it? And this is like maybe for like an 8-year-old. Because what happens if I have to do it, then we're going to put the iPad away for the rest of the day, for the rest of the weekend. It's up to you. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to sort this out. And then 10, you can count if you need to. 9, 8, wonder what you're going to choose. And this is all in my setting limits coursework that we do in our year-long immersion. Getting down to the art of offering choices within the context of a limit or a consequence possibly is a whole thing. And it takes some time to cultivate, but it's so worthwhile, because then they're still choosing in the end. And instead of being like, you don't listen to me and taking it personally, or you can't be responsible enough to have this iPad, which is kind of a big consequence. Like, we're going to toss the iPad or give it away. There are all these intermediary steps we can help kids through when we are clear about how we're going to roll through our expectations and things like that. So, but first things first, let's get these self-motivation and motivation tips into your hands. Do sign up for the session this Thursday. It's going to be really value packed. It's about an hour and a half with time for coaching and Q&A, even an opportunity to really look at what are your strengths as a parent, what are some areas that you might want to focus on and grow in, probably because of not having as much experience as folks like Dr. Luce and I, who've studied this and worked with families and kids for 2 decades. Most parents don't come into parenting with that kind of experience. So come and lean on our expertise, ask your questions, get specific answers, and also get some great motivation boosting tools. I previewed 3 of them: interest, competence, and autonomy today, but we're going to go into much greater depth in the session, as well as give you several more. So hope you can make it to 5 motivation boosting habits that eliminate power struggles with Dr. Luce and I this Thursday. We're going to be doing it at 7 p.m. Pacific. If you're not going to make it or wish you could and can't be there, we will provide a replay, but I highly encourage you to come live. And that's only because people have been asking for it. Usually we just do it live so we can have people actually show up rather than just watch the video later, which you may or may not get to. We really like you to get the value out of it. So it's better, motivation tool here, better for you to show up at a live session where you feel like you're going to get more out of it, which you will, than to watch the replay. But if you already have a schedule conflict, that is a backup plan. Okay. All right. Lots of love to each and every one of you. Desiree, anybody else who's listened, put your biggest takeaway in the chat, the thing that you don't want to forget. We help each other learn that way, and we also help each other get a sense of what you might work on next, so we can check in about that next time we connect. Hopefully Thursday at the webinar, or come back to another Monday Mindset. We're here for you, okay? And share with your friends. It's a free event. It's one of the easiest things to share. Just copy the link, pass it on. I'll also put the bit.ly link in there, which is the one that's like, sometimes it gives less of an issue when it comes to your sharing and stuff like that. So we'll put that in there as well. All right, y'all. Great work today. Let me know what your takeaway, standout point, thing you don't want to forget is, please, that's the one thing I ask for in these talks, is to just go ahead and share that so other people can see it too. And we'd love to support you going forward. All right. And say hey to people in the Facebook group. This is an amazing community. We've got folks who have been with us for 4 years in our world, others who are clients who have been working closely with our coaches and with each other in the immersion, which we are opening doors this month for July. For those of you who are interested, come check out the workshop so you can get a feel for it. And then we have folks who've been hanging out and really coming to these Monday Mindsets, like Kala. We have Sharon here. She's one of our clients who's been with us this year for the immersion. She says, routinize the wrap up so it's well known to all and help to reinforce the habit. Lovely. Nice, Sharon. Kala says she missed most of the live today, but so thankful that we're doing this. And Kala, remember, this is recorded in the Facebook group and on YouTube. So once it loads up in about 5 minutes, you can watch it. Siobhan's here. Thanks, Siobhan, an alum who studied with us last year. So good to see you and our alums always. Biggest takeaway is giving the reminder that the time is up and asking if they want to put it away or you. She also liked the part on what not to say when time has expired. Right. Yeah. You can overdo the choices. So we always got to watch out for that. Like, don't give a choice where you already know the answer. I have a friend who is an amazing mom, but I swear she does this way too often. And she and I have laughed over it, actually, because it's kind of just like this bad habit she wants to break. But she'll have something she wants her kid to do, like have a snack. And she'll say, it's a good time to have a snack, don't you think? And then whether he agrees or not, she's like, we're going to have a snack. He's not going to trust your questions over time. And sometimes, he gets more upset having been asked and then now in a disagreeable position, right? Having said no. And whereas she's like, we've talked about shifting to modeling or giving choices that she can live with, that are real choices, but actually get her point across. So saying things like, it's time to take a break and have a snack. I wonder if you want Cheerios or Cheez-Its, that's the great choice to put out there. And then she does that too. So there's always this contrast in kind of like her kid's mood based on which kinds of choices or questions she's putting out there. And that's what we've had a good laugh about. I'm like, yeah, we can go down that road or this road, which is great. It's such a small tweak that can have a big impact, especially over all the years, 1,000 days, thousands of days together. All right, y'all, lots of love. Thanks for putting your takeaways in the chat. That's always so helpful. And let's keep it rolling. People watching the replay, add into the conversation. We'd love to see yours as well. And we'll be back on next Monday for another Monday Mindset. But even better, come to our Thursday session. We'd love to see you there. All right, and I'll leave you with that. You resilient parents raising resilient kids, confident, happy, resilient kids who are self-motivated. That's our big goal this month. All right, lots of love to you all. Take care for now. Bye. Say bye on the way out. Bye.